so y'all are not in the shot for legal reasons. Okay, for this haircut, you section it into 4 quadrants. You can do more quadrants. I mean, you can do as many sections as you want to on a haircut, but you only really need 4 for this. Y'all remember me demoing the 0 degree and then explaining about dropping your perimeter to create your guideline and how that would come back into play in your 90-degree haircut? Well, I'm about to show you. So you do the exact same thing as if you would do for a 0 by dropping your perimeter. And as I have told y'all, that if you look up a video to do this haircut, like if you're studying at home or something and you just look up a video, most of the time, they only drop down back here in the nape of the neck. That's not wrong, that's fine. They just work in the front part at the end of their cut, whereas I like to do it at the beginning. So it's not wrong, whichever way is easiest for you to achieve the same haircut is fine. Clipped out of the way so I can control it. Because if you can't control your haircut, at the end, your client will control you. So. Now, depending on how long your client's hair is, how much length they're wanting to have taken off, things like that, you might go in and do a 0. When I demoed this earlier today, I did a 0 on it first because she was a newer mannequin and down here was all that see-through stuff, and I knew pulling it out into this 90-degree angle was gonna be difficult and I would probably get lost in the cut. So I did a 0 degree and just got rid of all of that. And then I went back into it with the 90. But since I've already done the 0 on her, she doesn't need it. So I'm just gonna start with the 90, okay? I'm just letting you know that that is an option, that if you have to do it the 0 first and then start the 90, that's okay too. I just do it that way to keep it tighter and neater so I can control it better. And at your state boards, what they are gonna ask for you to do is to cut in the nape area. You don't have to up here necessarily, but in the nape area, they are gonna want you to establish your guideline using your razor, okay? And I know most everybody has gotten your shear kits in now, and so we'll get your razors out because most of the time the blades, when they're shipped to you guys, they're backwards. I don't know why, but we'll switch them for you. But anyways, this is what you have to do. It's just an example of your skills. That's all your state board exam is. It's an example of what you can do, not what you can really do. Okay, so we're gonna pull this down at 0 degrees. I'm just gonna say that she just wants that much cut off. And so I'm gonna go in at like a 45-degree angle, and I'm gonna apply pressure, and then I'm gonna scoop it out towards me. And that's how you get that. And then you work it just like you would your shears, working it down and finding your guideline. And once you feel your guideline in between your 2 fingers, and you kind of feel it slip just a little bit, that's when you make your cut right there on that side.
Are you cutting above?
Yes,
okay.
I'm cutting above. Yeah, if you went to try to go under and do it, you're not gonna ever cut anything. You're probably gonna cut yourself. And so you need to pull it down and then go above your fingers right here.
So you're going behind your fingers?
and make that. I'm gonna show you. Pulling this straight down, and then I'm going on top, and by the time I make my cut, my razor is right here. And so, I mean, don't go in between your fingers. You're gonna cut yourself, cut your finger off. You just go around it like that. And I will work this around all the way to the front. I'm gonna go back here. I'm gonna find where I started at. Clean this up a little bit. Bring this all down at 0 degrees right now. Finding my guideline, seeing where I need to make that cut, and then making it. Straight down at 0. Right here, I'm going to clean that up. And now I've established my guideline. So now I'm going to put this down. I'm going to pick up my shears. I'll make sure I have them grit before I start working on my client. And now right here is when you start taking vertical pie type sections. And we're gonna work it around the head this way. We're gonna take a small subsection right here at the back. We're gonna comb this out of our way. If you need to clip that out of your way, that's fine, that's no problem. And now, we know this is 0 degrees, and we know this is 180. And so now we're doing 90, straight off the head. You have to think of your client as a sphere all the way around her head. That, if you can picture that in your head, then when you're creating these angles, it's a lot easier for you to figure out what you need to do. Okay, so since this is my guideline, I'm going to pull some of that up. You don't have to hold all this if it's awkward. I mean, you can put that top part down. You don't have to worry about that right now. But I'm going to comb this straight out at 90 degrees. I've created a 90-degree angle right here by doing this. I'm gonna pull this straight out, and I can see my guideline right here from my perimeter. And I'm going to make a vertical cut. I'm not doing my fingers this way or this way. I'm trying to keep them as straight as I possibly can. Combing this out, finding my guideline, and I'm making this cut. And you walk that all the way up the head. I find my guideline right here. Now I'm making this cut. Still at 90 degrees, I'm pulling the hair straight out from where it grows from the scalp. Straight out. Walking it all the way up to the crown. Find your guideline and make that cut. Now some videos you're going to see where they take this and continue all the way to the front. You can do that if you want to. I personally like to stop at the apex and just work my way this way. That's just easier for me. And so now, I'm gonna go this way into my quadrant. I'm gonna have a small subsection that I have not cut yet. I'm gonna comb that out of my way. Okay, now I have two guidelines. Now I have the guideline from the perimeter that I established, but I also have the guideline from the section, the subsection that I just cut before it. So I'm gonna take both of those in my hand. I'm gonna comb this hair out directly at 90 degrees. And I'm gonna find my guidelines. I see my guideline down here from the perimeter, and behind this long hair, I see my guideline from the subsection that I cut previously. And since they both line up, that lets me know that it's safe for me to make this cut. Combing it all straight out at 90 degrees. Find my guidelines. You drop it, go back and pick it up. You want to make sure you see it before you cut. Here that I didn't get. Straight out. See my guidelines. Walking it all the way up. Continuously keeping that 90-degree angle straight off the head. You can just let that fall. And then now, I want to make sure that my client's hair stays saturated, because some of it in here is starting to dry, and my dry hair and my wet hair is going to be two different lengths. And so if I cut it at two different lengths, then when it's down and styled, it'll be at two different lengths. So, now I'm going to take a subsection from here. I'm gonna comb this out of the way. Now I don't need all of this as a guide. That'll be too much in my hands. I'll get lost in it. I could possibly recut my guideline, which will throw the whole haircut off. So I'm gonna cut this in half, and I'm only gonna take a portion of it as my guideline. So now I have the perimeter and a portion of this subsection. And I'm going to comb this out at 90 degrees. I see this guideline and I see that guideline. So I'm gonna try. Pull this straight out, establish my guideline, and make this cut. Now up here at the top, it's a little bit thinner, so I can grab that whole previous section. And see, there's that guideline, there's that guideline. That was right. And so now, right here, I didn't, whenever I originally pulled up this slice, I stopped right there. You can't forget to pick that hair up. It's still in that same quadrant. So you can't forget to pick all of it up. Here's the guidelines. You can see it on this side and up underneath. So we're good. Pulling it straight up. I have this guideline here, and the one behind it. So I've got 3 different ways to check myself while I'm working to make sure that I'm still on track. We'll do the same thing. Take a little bit from this subsection, all the way down. If you need to clip this out of the way, clip it together so you don't accidentally grab that, you totally can. And we're gonna do it again. Combing it straight out at 90 degrees. There's my guideline. And I'm making sure that if I need to look at something more closely, I'll bring my eye to the hair and not the hair to my eye, because then I will accidentally change the angle. And you want to make sure that when you're combing it so the hair that has not been cut is pulled out at 90 degrees. I don't want to pull this out at 90 degrees here, because it's really supposed to be here on this side, and it'll throw the angle off a little bit. So you really got to try to be conscious of where you're pulling that hair from. Clean this up. There's my guideline. I'm going to unclip this so I can utilize some of it. Straight out. Okay. That is literally all you do, all the way around this head. Coming straight out. Making sure I've got some of my perimeter in the subsection before it. There's my guideline. And if you need to let your guideline fall a little bit, as long as you can grip it right where it falls, then that's fine. If you're like nervous to recut it or something, or if you think you might, you can always let that drop. Straight out. Working it all the way up. And then when I get here, I've got a little bit from this section and this section, and all that lines up. And I can see that little twig right there sticking out of the middle where I'm connecting these two sides together. And that lets me know it's right. So there's little things you can do throughout this to keep a check on yourself. So at the end of it, you're not going, whoa. Right here to ear. We're going to do the same thing. On this out of the way. I'm going to take a little bit of this subsection right here. I'm going to comb this straight out at 90 degrees. I'm going to find my guidelines. I've got two of them. I pulled some from my perimeter, and I've got some from the section behind it. Pulling it straight out. All the way up. Take another section. And sometimes right here at the ears, a lot of people tend to find an issue, and sometimes they'll kind of either accidentally cut their guideline or recut it, or they'll over direct too much in one way or the other, and sometimes for some reason it just always seems to be shorter right there in that area with everybody when they're first starting. And sometimes you can do the haircut a million times and still get that part shorter. So it's tricky right here, and so you just gotta kind of pay attention to where all of your guidelines are. And if you pull it directly out at 90 degrees, there's my guideline. If I am scared of that happening, then I can pull it back towards me slightly. If you do it too much, you're changing the angle too much and it's gonna throw that front part off. But the best part to do is find your guideline right there and slide your fingers until you feel it drop. And when it drops, cut right against your fingers, because you're not recutting that at that point. You know for sure that that guideline is no longer in between your fingers when you do that. And you pull it straight out. There's my guideline right there. There's my guideline up underneath it. And so it's safe for me to make that cut. We're gonna walk this all the way up the head. Now, like I said, we're gonna be doing this haircut a million times, and I'm sure this is not gonna be the last time that I do it for y'all, because this is a very important haircut. And so don't stress about it, because you'll get it, I promise. Do the same thing. Pulling it straight out. I see where my guideline is. I'm gonna let it drop just a little bit and then make that cut. Find my guideline. Do the same thing right here. I can see my guideline right here. So I'm gonna comb that up some more. There's my guideline there. And I can see my guideline on the other side up underneath it. So that lets me know that it's okay, that I'm on the right track. And you do that exact same thing on that side. It's the exact same thing. And then once you're done, that is the 90-degree haircut. And since you cut it vertically, you can go back in horizontally and check yourself. Sanitize. And you can go in and check and see that everything is evened out. And if it is, then you're fine. Okay, I would finish this for you guys, but there's not a whole lot of extra time in y'all's class. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn y'all loose on it. If y'all have any questions at all, don't hesitate to ask me and Miss Jessie. That's what we're here for, okay?
Do we need to wash or just wet?
You can just wet it if you want to. If you want to wash it, you can, but you don't have to today.
So we have to use a new one, or can we use the old one that we cut?
Oh, you can use it one you've already been working on.